The story that will be told in this video began in 1981. The identity of the crime victim could not be determined for almost 34 years. All that time, the girl was known as the Pima County Jane Doe. But during the investigation of another case, an accidentally found photo helped to discover the name and history of the deceased. Subscribe to this channel and don't forget to click the bell to get notifications about new videos. Tucson, Pima County, Arizona, April 8, 1981. Near Houghton Road and Interstate 10, local hunters saw a denim jacket hanging from a tree. It was an unusual sight for the area, and the men decided to see if anyone needed help. But the situation was much scarier. They discovered a body. The police officers saw the remains of a young white woman. She was wearing jeans, white socks, underwear, brown suede shoes, and a navy blue blouse with a floral pattern. A denim jacket clearly belonging to the girl was hanging from a tree. Because the clothing was bright and conspicuous, there was an assumption that she had attended or worked at a local fair, but there was no way to verify this. There were many footprints and shell casings around, but further investigation showed that the shell casings were not relevant to this case. Someone local had been shooting cans here, and there were too many footprints to determine which ones belonged to the assailant. The coroner documented multiple injuries to the victim, but the cause of death was strangulation, preceded by abuse. She had scratches on her face and body, most likely as the woman ran away from her attacker through thorny bushes. Although death had occurred only a day and a half to 2 days before discovery, the condition of the body not only prevented identification, but even fingerprinting became a problem. The limbs had to be sent to an FBI lab, where top-notch specialists managed the task. But the results didn't match any of the databases. The color of the victim's eyes could not be established either. The heat in this part of the desert is like an oven. All liquids dry out very quickly here and make identification extremely difficult. Sergeant Mark Odell of the Pima County Sheriff's Office described the situation. Detectives took every measure to solve the crime and identify the deceased. Even flights were made over the site where the remains were found, and photographs were taken to make sure no evidence was missed that could be carried away by the wind. An artist drew a portrait of the supposed appearance of the found. It was published by the local media, but all this had no effect, and the remains were buried in the local cemetery. Several missing girls were considered unidentified from Pima County, but they all didn't fit for various reasons. There was a theory that Jane Doe may have died at the hands of the so-called Golden State Killer. The criminal, after a series of crimes in California in the 1970s, may have moved on. For many decades, he was elusive. Only in 2018, thanks to modern ways of studying DNA material, he was caught. He turned out to be 72-year-old former police officer Joseph James DeAngelo. He is guilty of more than 200 different crimes. Despite the lack of progress in the investigation, no one was going to close the case, and with the development of new technologies, there was a breakthrough in it. In 2012, the body was exhumed, and with the help of computer tomography, created a 3D model of the head of the deceased. The obtained result and photos of clothes were posted on specialized sites about missing people. As part of a program to investigate old unsolved cases, the clothes of the deceased were examined. Eventually, the DNA of an unknown man was extracted from the girl's jacket, and the result matched an inmate who had been serving time in a local jail for a long time. But he refused to give any testimony and tell who the Jane Doe of Pima County, as the unidentified was called for decades, really was. John Joseph Calhauser. John Calhauser spent his youth in the town of Tyngsboro, Massachusetts. He had 2 brothers and a sister, but unlike them, the guy did not go into farming, and from a young age began to break the law. In the end, as it usually happens, it led to extremely tragic consequences. On the night of Monday-Tuesday, May 4th, 1971, a car was found abandoned in Tyngsboro. The attention of witnesses was drawn to the bullet holes visible in the car. The owner of the vehicle was identified as Paul Chapman, a 52-year-old human director of industrial relations at Jones Manville Products Corporation. The man's body was soon found in a wooded area with several bullet wounds. Police quickly identified the suspect, 17-year-old local resident John Calhauser. He had a .22 caliber handgun on him. He admitted to killing Chapman in defense of himself. The investigation was able to prove at trial that the man was guilty of second-degree murder. Couser was sentenced to 7 years in prison, of which he served only 1 year. This inexplicable humanity of the execution of the sentence will bring a lot of misfortunes to other people in the future. Exactly 8 years after Paul Chapman's murder, Couser was dumped by his girlfriend. He harbored a grudge and thought of nothing better to do than kill her new boyfriend, Michael Renck. On May 19th, the man drove the girl to work and went about his business. Couser had been following him all this time, and after catching a moment when they were alone on the road, he approached Renck's car and shot his rival 6 times. The bullet struck the victim in the throat, shoulder, and back. Despite the severe injuries, the man was lucky and survived. It took nearly 3 months for police officers to gather all the evidence to arrest Couser. By this time, John had managed to be sentenced to 4 months in prison for beating up a nurse in Barnstable and was serving that sentence. Once out of prison, the man decided not to appear for trial for the past case. Instead, he took the name of a classmate, Don Stecky, and moved to Tucson, Arizona. There, he got a job with an electronics company, got married, and became a father of 2 children in 1989 and in 1991. It seemed that the man had changed. Outwardly, it looked so, but, as it turned out, his dark side did not go anywhere. In July 1994, Couser's wife, Diane van Reath, filed for divorce. Moreover, her attorney informed John that the wife wanted sole custody of the children, and he should leave their home. On August 10, 1995, the 35-year-old woman went to work as usual at Tucson Electric Power, where she had worked for about 4 years. She never made it to the office. She was never seen again. Tucson police found Diane's '92 Ford Aerostar minivan in a parking lot about 2 blocks from her home. No signs of struggle were noted inside the vehicle, and no car keys or identification were missing. The first under suspicion was, of course, the husband of the missing woman. His fingerprints were found in the car, but this did not yet prove anything. During the investigation, Diane's parents reported that the name Don Stecky, fictitious, and the real, John Couser. And this man has been wanted for many years by the police of the state of Massachusetts, where he was extradited. In his home state, the criminal was sentenced to 24 years for attempted murder, unlawful use of a deadly weapon, unlawful carrying of a weapon, and failure to appear in court. There has been no progress on the case of Diane van Reath's disappearance for several years. Couser said he had no way of knowing if she was alive or dead, claiming the spouse had run off with a lover. But while the criminal was in jail, the firm he used to work for was moving out of its former building, and while moving, the missing Diane and her children's papers were accidentally discovered. They were wrapped in a red cloth and were behind a metal filing cabinet that her husband used to use. The perpetrator was offered a pretrial plea bargain with reduced charges, and under the weight of the evidence, he admitted to taking Van Reath's life and dumping her body down a mine shaft in Mount Lemmon. For this, he was sentenced in 1999 to another 20 years in prison, but that made little difference because he had to serve them concurrently with his sentence. But that wasn't the last of John Couser's sad secrets. Back in '95, during searches, he was found a photo of a young girl with blonde hair and a bouquet in his hands. The perpetrator himself refused to give any information about the blonde in the photo. Nearly 20 years after the search, when the body of Pima County Jane Doe was exhumed and a 3D model of the girl's appearance was created, and DNA from her jacket matched to Couser, investigators revisited the found photo. Detectives were able to determine that the photo was taken in Tingsboro, where the perpetrator used to live, between 1979 and '81. Police officers found similarities between a computer reconstruction of the unidentified person's appearance and the girl pictured in the photo found during the search. Chelmsford Police Department decided to publish both images together, and soon the mystery of the unidentified person's identity was solved. Brenda Gerow was born on February 18, 1960, in the town of Nashua, New Hampshire. By the age of 20, she was already working 2 jobs, on weekdays as a store clerk and on weekends a bartender in the bar in the neighboring town, where the local bikers like to spend time. Here she met one of them, a guy named Jack, and soon they started dating. After a few months, they made the decision to leave Nashua. Before leaving, the girl pierced her brother Bill's ear and left her earring as a keepsake. Brenda's dad, Bill Gerow Sr., really disliked his daughter's boyfriend Jack, as John Calhouser was called. Besides, the girl had long wanted to travel outside of her native land. Despite the departure, she was getting in touch with her loved ones. During the last call, Brenda was not herself and said that she was in Phoenix, Arizona, and intended to return home soon. She never called her relatives again. A few weeks later, Brenda's worried parents tried to file a missing persons report with the police, but they did not take it from them, as their daughter was already 21 years old, an adult, and known to have left of her own free will, and not calling her relatives has every right. Thus, Gerow was never listed as a missing person. In September 2015, police contacted Bill Gerow Jr. and advised him that his sister had most likely died in 1981. A DNA test confirmed their relationship. Her brother always thought that one day he would find her and their children would play together. I feel like I lost her 3 times. Once when she left, a second time when I found out she was dead, and another time when it became clear that Calhouser had killed her. I have never harbored hatred for anyone in my life, but this man I truly hate for what he did to my sister. Diane van Reath's mother was given full custody of her children, and they were later raised by a cousin of the deceased. Outlaw's younger brother, Stephen Calhouser, died in 2019 at the age of 63. He was a lifelong resident of Tyngsboro, where he farmed and where Brenda was photographed shortly before her death. Stephen's obituary indicates that he will be missed by a sister Barbara of New Hampshire and a brother John of Arizona, the same John who, just 3 months after his brother's funeral, was scheduled to be released from prison in May 2019 after serving time for crimes against Diane van Reath and Michael Renck. Other reports say he is due to be released in 2025. For 8 years now, he has been considered possibly responsible for the death of Brenda Gerow. But sufficient evidence has not at this time been found. What do you think? Was John Calhouser involved in Brenda Gerow's death, or did someone else do it? Write your opinion in the comments.